everybody, welcome back to Road to Master. Hope you're all having an amazing day. We're here going over the final game we're going to go through from this tournament I played. This was interesting. I think you could call this a bit of a roller coaster, which is fun, I guess. But we're here starting with the black pieces. We play the perk. We play the perk because that's what we do. And it's pretty standard perk sort of setup. H3, the reason you play H3 is to prevent the knight or bishop, I guess, going to G4, which allows them to play bishop E3, because knight G4, it gets a bit awkward for the dark squared bishop, and you don't really want to trade it off. So they play H3 first, which is completely reasonable. And we reply with this C6, and the reason we play C6 is to facilitate a B5 push. So that if they try for this queen D2 long castle setup, we have quick pawn pushes to break through on the king side and hopefully make our attack faster than their attack, which is the whole point. Yes, it does kind of get rid of some squares for our knight, but it also opens up some different lines. So I like it. This is the setup I choose to go for, really. They continue development. We go B5. I probably could castle here as well. I think it's fine. B5 could potentially be considered not doing anything right now, but I don't mind it. A3, if I can count, is fine. It's sort of preventing B4. Maybe we go queen A5 to create this pin if they ever go queen D2. So then B4 is looking a bit cool. But lots to think about, and it's fairly in the future. Castles, bishop D3, they finish their development, and then A6 I think is not ideal. You're a bit underdeveloped here, so maybe bishop B7, maybe just knight BD7. Knight A6 looks dodgy. So I'd probably go knight BD7. Apparently queen C7 is the top move, but the rest aren't that far behind. A6 though, not bad at all actually. It says it's a fine move, so I'll take that. They castle. Now they're fully developed here. They've decided not to castle queenside. So they are unlikely to push these pawns, which is good. But it means the play's more likely to be in the center rather than this attack we're going for. So we need to sort of tighten that up a bit, right? I go knight D7. Looking for E5, I think would benefit us if we can get it. And then it's a bit more King's Indian-y. Obviously, they've not got C4 played. But it's a bit more solid, and we can maybe have a look at a kingside attack if we manage E5. So they spot this and they decide to go E5 themselves. I think it's very reasonable, actually. I quite like this for them. I don't really want to take. Taking looks sticky, I think is the word. It's not bad. Taking's the second best move. But it's not what I want to do. I decide to play knight E8, which is the computer move. And if they take, I'm happy to either take with the e-pawn or the knight, depending on how I feel. Yeah, if they take, what's the computer saying? We take with the e-pawn or the knight. They're about the same. I'd probably go with the knight, personally. But then, no, maybe the e-pawn's fine. Maybe the e-pawn's fine. And then you just move this knight back, or there, still. But they decide not to take. They play this really cool move, E6. E6 is a pawn sacrifice. But it has some really cool ideas behind it. The problem is, our pieces they're not particularly the best pieces in the world, right? So what E6 is doing is trying to limit the play of our pieces and open up lines for them. To potentially attack in the future, which I really like. And I've not really got any choice here but to take. The next best move is knight b6, which is not ideal. Oh, we've lost the position. Oh no, where are we? e6. Next best move is knight b6, which goes from about 0.2 to 1.4, which is not where you want to be at all, right? So we just have to sort of take. We just have to. There's nothing really we can do. And you see here, our knight can't really go anywhere. Our bishops, it's there, but it's not like doing much. And the knights are sharing a lot of the same squares, right? This knight can't go here because of the bishop. You know, the rook sort of doesn't want to move. And the queen can't really get in either. This bishop's blocked in by both the knight and the pawn. So we're a bit stuck. So we have some material. We're up a pawn. And I need to consciously make an effort to free up my pieces. So I go... Well, firstly, they go knight g5, which is threatening some stuff. Immediately the fork on the rook and the queen, right? Potentially some knight h7, bishop takes stuff in the future. Maybe you're looking at e4. Maybe not e5 with this e-pawn right here, but, you know, it's doing stuff. But immediately I need to fix this. So I just go knight d to f6. Fixes the problem. I thought about maybe going this way around instead. But that looks like you're taking pieces away from your king side, which is not really what you want to be doing. So I stuck with f6. And what I really, really want is to get e5 in, right? e5 will fix all of my problems. But I can't really do it just yet, right? Can't really do it just yet. They go knight to e2. I get what this is doing. You want to try get this in this way, maybe this way, but it seems a bit slow. So I go knight d5, hitting the bishop. I'd love to get rid of this bishop, because then this bishop's just got free reign, and it would cut off their connection to my weak pawns, maybe, which I'd like, and it frees up the f6 square for this knight if I ever need that as well. So I like this move, and they don't want to give up their bishop, so they go bishop to d2, just keeping that on the board. You still have some things with like queen c1 if you really want to attack the dark squares, but it just keeps it on the board. e5 is what we wanted, right? Is what we wanted. Now this bishop's alive. we can afford to do e5, so I'm happy with that. Now the correct computer move here is actually just to take. I don't like the look of this. You know, I don't think this is a particularly natural move to make, because you're double isolating your pawns, and you've got this pawn advantage, right? You're up a pawn, so why would you want to basically just like make one of these pawns that you've got redundant? You know, they still have the pressure on the e-file, so this is going to be a bit of a weakness. I don't know. It just didn't seem natural to me, so I decided to go ahead and take with the bishop instead. I can always move this back. Yes, it's a bit slower, but I keep my pawn structure, is what I'm trying to argue, right? c3 is their next move. Seemed strange. I don't really know why they've done that. Maybe to get the queen on c2 and get pressure on these two light squared pawns. But other than that, it seemed like you should be doing something a bit more. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe even c4 was an option. Maybe even c4. c4, it's saying, is the best move. Queen c1 as well, like we said. c3 is not bad. And then bishop c1, and maybe get the queen first in this little battery. I don't know. So I'm feeling like I've got a decent setup. The problem is I'm still underdeveloped. So what I really need to be doing is going like knight g7, knight c7, maybe get this bishop in the game somehow. Maybe get the rook somehow. Maybe get rook a7 in. So then when we play this, we can defend more easily or launch this rook into an attack. The one thing you shouldn't do here, the one thing you shouldn't do here is to trade off your active pieces, right? There are only 2 active pieces. So the one thing you shouldn't be doing is looking to trade them off. And that's exactly what I decided to do after c3. That's exactly what I decided to do. Now this just loses. This is a full-blown blunder, right? This goes from minus 0.32, so a very slight advantage to us, to plus 2.33, which is pretty bad. That's almost a full piece. So the reason this doesn't work is because knight takes f4. I took with the bishop. Apparently the best move is to take with the rook, which is insane. But if you take with the bishop, which is the thing anyone would do, right? They have knight takes h7, which is an absolutely insane move to make. It completely makes sense, right? And that's the reason you take with the rook, is to get this pressure off. But say you take the knight. What's white's move here? That move is queen h5, which is so cool. Because this pawn's pinned to the king, they can't take. So where you go back and then you could take king h8, or you go on knight g7, I think. Probably better, but then you've got like check, and then you're blocking your defense of the dark square bishop, so you can go ahead and take this now, which is crazy. So that's some nice tactics right there. They decide to not go for that because that's an insane thing to see. And they keep trading off. So it's gone from like really bad to just a bit even. Still slightly better for white, I'd say, because they have all this activity we don't. Like, this is not nice. These 4 pieces, 3 of them haven't moved from their starting square, which is stupid. And one of them's where it definitely should not be. So it's not nice for us, but about even, because we're still a pawn up, right? We are still a pawn up. They decide not to go for the crazy sack, and go knight f3. I think it's fine. But we get e5 now, which is what we wanted the whole time. So we've got this really solid pawn center. Our rook's active, but it's able to be hit. We just need to work on our development. Knight d2 was strange. I was happy about that. It seems quite backwards. I think I'm probably safe to march these pawns forward. Obviously, development still is good. Apparently, bishop takes pawn here is fine. Is actually the best move. And g takes, what is the plan? Queen g5, king h2, I guess. You could probably get away with h1, but maybe this pawn's a bit weak. So h2 is fine. And then knight f6. Knight f6. Knight f3. And then queen h6. I don't know what the purpose of queen h6 is. Bishop e2. Knight d5. That's a strange one. c4. c4. Bishop take. B takes. Not bishop takes because the rook's covering. And then what's it saying? I don't know. This doesn't seem particularly solid to say you've given up a piece. You get 3 pawns because you're already up a pawn. So you're actually even on material, to be fair. Queen a4, apparently the move. And then knight e7. Really? Just to defend that pawn? I don't know. This seems wild. Too much for me. We decide to go d5 instead, which I think is very sensible. You know, looking for e4, and then you've got a ridiculous center. G3 I think is fine. Maybe you're slightly weakening your king, but you're hitting the rook, so you're not losing this pawn. You have to move the rook. We move back to f8. I think is the only reasonable square. You can't go here, here, here. You go to f6, you're sort of blocking in your queen. You go to f7. This rook sort of wants to be on f7 instead, because that's like the quickest way to get that developed. So I think just going back to f8 is safest. And then we're hitting this, so they decide to just save that pawn, which is smart. e4. It says is an inaccuracy. Again, I think just development is smart, you know. But I felt we get a tempo. Maybe you can say we've overextended a bit, but I don't think it's horrendous. Bishop e2, very sensible, I think. And we decided to go bishop h3. Bishop h3 I thought was a mistake. Apparently this is a great move. And I'll show you why this is a great move, but I didn't go for it, the follow-up. I saw the follow-up, I didn't go for it. They save the rook, is the obvious thing to do. But here we have rook takes f2. Which I saw, and I spent about 30 minutes analysing this position, which got me very low on time. And the whole point is that king takes, you have queen b6. Which surprisingly is just mate. They have nothing that can actually block these dark squares. So it's just checkmate after b6. The problem is they have a few moves, actually, that are quite tricky. Firstly, I think knight e4 needs consideration. Because after pawn takes, they can take the pawn. Because now, after check, they have queen d4. Which is the whole purpose of this knight sack. I think is quite cool. But we do have rook g2, which I sort of calculated, but I think I lost track of it a bit. I saw d takes e. Did I see that? D takes e. And then bishop f1, I thought, looked sort of nasty. But they have rook takes g3. And I thought here king h2 looked fine. And this is what put me off a bit. But here we just have queen takes h4. And we defend the bishop another time. And this is actually mate in 4. Which is cool. So it turns out that was actually fine. What else did I think? I thought here king h1 looked quite nice for black. Not for black, for white. I thought it looked safe. Obviously, we're getting a second pawn, and the rook's getting invaded. So I don't think this is bad. And I think that's what sort of got me. I forget that we are just up 2 pawns here, right? Maybe your pieces get knocked about a bit, but I don't think either of them are ever getting taken. So I think it's actually quite safe. Yeah, I don't really know what they do here. The computer says just knight g7. Yeah, maybe you can still go queen b6, but I think just develop. Like, you're not getting kicked out, ever. And they can try stuff, but then you just, like, if you have to, you trade off, right? So that's quite safe. What else did I think? Knight f1 apparently is the best move. And then rook g2. You go back, they don't have knight takes, which is quite cool. So maybe they can think about like a bishop g4, which is insane as well. Yeah, that's quite cool. But, okay, it works. Like, it works. I felt it worked. I couldn't find the concrete thing. And that's a big risk, I think. If you can't find the concrete line in a sack, and you can trust your intuition for a certain amount. I don't know though. Like, it's a risky thing, especially in a tournament. You're looking to like win, which I was, I think, at this time. I didn't go into the next day thinking I was going to win, but hey, you know, it takes a lot of nerves, and I wasn't 100% on this one. In a rapid game or a bullet game, I'd be doing that every day of the week, but not in this one. So I decided to go queen b8. I think you can also go maybe queen b6, and then allow king g2, and then maybe check. Could work. I don't know. Or maybe queen there first. I don't know. Like, there's a lot of like subtle variations, I think. but I decided on queen b8, which is silly, really. I think what I wanted was takes, and then I'm looking at that. This is also stopping them breaking through. So I thought this was fine. It's still winning, just not as good. Bishop f1, looking to trade off some of the pressure. I think is a good move. And here I should have just brought the bishop back, right? I should have just brought the bishop back, developed some more, which I'm still underdeveloped. This rook hasn't moved. This knight hasn't moved since when it's been kicked about by this pawn. I decided to trade off. It's still slightly better, but it's getting rid of your better pieces, you know, which isn't ideal. Rook a7 here, looking to develop, which was the whole point of keeping this rook on f8, so we can slide this over to f7. Queen d4 is a good move. I kept on with rook f7, like our plan, putting pressure on this pawn. Rook e2 defends that. And the thing is, they're looking at both of these pawns potentially with either queen b6 or queen c5. Maybe you're getting in this side. I don't really know. And I start playing a bit sloppy. I think I get low on the clock here as well. I thought here maybe queen b6 looked alright, and I would have to go knight c7 to defend this pawn. I don't know. They go knight h2. I think it's a reasonable way of developing the knight. It's a bit slow. But if you go here or here, then you're maybe cutting off some lines that your major pieces want. So I think this is a reasonable way of coming around with the knight. We go c5, just kicking the queen a bit. I would like d4 straight away, but I think they can just take this. Which, you know, you're getting rid of your big center, which is sort of the only thing we have going for us. Obviously, we're still up a pawn for now. I go knight f6, you know, covering the e pawn, looking to push d4. But this, I think, stops it quite well because we only have one sort of thing, so they can probably just take. I slide the rook over, again looking to push. And then queen f5 is a surprisingly sneaky move. Surprisingly sneaky, yeah, because you're still sort of looking at these sort of pawns. And your queen's just like in the way, so you can't really... You probably could get away with rook d8, but yeah, maybe that. I don't know. We decide to push because I'm low on time, and takes. And I'm thinking maybe I can get away with something. And they go knight g4. Knight g4 is tricky, very very tricky, because they are looking at something. They are looking at... Oh, yeah. They're looking at knight h6. Say I play like a5. Knight h6. You can't go to g7 because of the fork. The pin on the king and the queen. Which is really cool. So you have to go to like h8. And at which point maybe... what do they have? Knight takes f5. What? Knight f5 check. That's not a check. What are they saying? What are they saying? They go there. That can't be right. That's just a blunder. Why is this so better for white? They're saying go back to g4. That's interesting. Knight h6 apparently not the move. Where do you go? Knight takes f6. Oh, really? Oh, and then you just take the e-pawn. Ah, then you just take the e-pawn. So, rook takes, you know. And then maybe you're threatening to take the d-pawn as well. Who knows? But yeah, you've got to be careful. You've got to be careful. So I decided to just trade off and go into a queen and rook endgame. A pawn up. I think we're losing the e-pawn. I don't think we can really save it. So I decided to go d3. And say, we're losing this no matter what. Let's try advance this pawn, you know. At this point, I'm like pretty sure I've lost all of my advantage. The computer still says it's slightly better for me. But then d3 apparently is dead drawn. They take, and I try this sneaky move, queen f6, hoping they would take this so we can go check. Then king f1, king h1, and then check again. And then we're going to take this and hopefully try promote this pawn. I think it's probably still drawing. But there's tricks. There is tricks in this position. Unfortunately, they saw the sensible move, which is knight f4, intermezzo. We have to go queen d6 to cover the rook. And it's just offering a big trade-off. You know, I could have gone maybe rook f7 here, but then queen takes, and we're down a pawn then. So I decided to go king g7 and hold on to this pawn. We could have just like accepted the draw here. But you know, I felt like I had a good position. I felt like I deserved the win. So I decided to keep playing with b4, which just like is a bit useless, really. It trades everything off. And then actually I go down a pawn. And I'm the one fighting for a draw. They decide to check. Well, we decide to check. Maybe we can survive the queen trade, but that's a lot to calculate in not a lot of time. So I keep the queens on the board, hopefully. Keep throwing in some checks. They throw in some checks. I think at some point they actually get a winning position, and they decide to keep checking instead. And then eventually we we finally agreed to a draw, which was a disappointing result. To say we had such nice stuff. Yeah, such a nice position. I think it's disappointing. But that is the way these games go. You know, we missed these tactics. We didn't miss rook f2. We just misevaluated rook f2. But yeah, I think it was fun. I think educational. You know, it shows the power, or the power of not having your pieces developed, I guess I should say. Yeah, the power of activity, you know. But hey, that's that. Anyway, that is the last game we'll show from the tournament. I'll show you some league games next time. The shorts have been doing well. I've been trying to upload YouTube shorts. They've been getting a ton of views, a ton of comments, which I'm really happy with. So I'll try to keep those coming. Again, send in your games if you want them looked at. And as always, thank you all for watching. I hope you all enjoyed. Please like if you liked. Please subscribe if you really liked. And I'll catch you guys all tomorrow. Bye-bye.